inside of the Africa Forum, and my next very special guest, thank him so much because we had a mix-up with our timing this morning, and we had pushed some of our interviews left, right, and center, as you probably recognize, but I thank him so much for hanging in there and for giving us an opportunity to talk with him in this segment of the program. I'm talking about Professor Melvin Pascall. Professor Pascall obtained his undergraduate degree in agricultural science from the University of the West Indies in Trinidad and later pursued graduate studies at Michigan State University, where he obtained a master's degree in packaging science and a dual major Ph.D. in food science and environmental toxicology. He then worked at the Food and Drug Administration in Chicago, Illinois, where he trained FDA field inspectors, performed research, and later served in an administrative role in Washington. He is currently a faculty member at Ohio State University, conducting research in food packaging, food safety, and product shelf life, while teaching food packaging and food law. Professor Pascall is also a fellow of the Institute of Food Technologists and recipient of the 2022 International Food Award. He has also supported food packaging and processing, that's processing development here in Jamaica. He has including work with the University of the West Indies Mona campus, the Jamaica Bureau of Standards, and local manufacturing companies. Matter of fact, he's now in Jamaica on a very, very serious mission within the context you just heard. Professor Pascall, it's really great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us on the Africa Forum this morning.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
Right, and for your patience, may I just add that. Thank you so much. All right, Prof. I know you've been listening and hearing, and as a Caribbean man yourself, I just wanted your quick take on what's happening in the region right now, Cuba in particular. Just your quick perspective on how you see this.
Well, in the Caribbean, my philosophy is if we are self-sufficient in what we have, the resources we have, then we are better able to chart our own destiny. There are resources, and for example, and I guess we will come to that a little bit later when we talk about why I'm here in Jamaica, and it is to promote one of our own products or one of the things that we have in our own environment where we can create the things that we need for sustenance. And my philosophy is when we do that, we become, more in control of our lives, our destinies, instead of, us being dependent on people who are outside of the region.
Yes. So we deflect at a time like this, especially at such a time like this, as my father would say, to self-sufficiency, to the teachings of Marcus Garvey Mwalimu. We have the template, don't we? Because as Professor Horace Campbell was saying earlier, that we've come through so much and we've survived. And we already have the innate knowing and also the spirit to survive and to thrive. And that takes me then to, why are you in Jamaica? You're at the University of the West Indies right now, and it fits in with everything else that we're saying, because here we're talking about self-sufficiency. Where do we go from here, especially on the backside of what looks like World War III? I know you're not calling it that, but I'm calling it that. So why are you in Jamaica?
Well, I'm here on a Fulbright Fellowship. And specifically, I'm here to work with one of the problems that you're having here in Jamaica and throughout the Caribbean, and not only the Caribbean, but the Gulf Coast countries and even North America, the southern part of North America. And that is the problem of sargassum on our beaches. And here in Jamaica, a significant part of the economy relies on tourism and fishing. So sargassum as if I'm not sure how much the listeners are familiar with it,
I,
especially those who live far from the beaches.
yeah,
But
they'll know what it is. So, but tell us what. But they probably don't know the name. In other words, we've seen the. I think we're calling it seaweed.
yes, it's a
Yes,
seaweed.
yes.
Yes, and it comes, and this time of the year, it's when it's most prevalent, and it comes, in large quantities, and then it, clogs up the beach. It interferes with tourism. It interferes with the fishing industry, and of course, the aesthetics of the environment. It's costly because we have to remove it. The hotels, and removing it is costly. And apart from that, once the seaweed is removed from the sea, then it dies. And when it does, it stinks
Yes.
because it produces hydrogen sulfide, which is a very stink smelling gas. And,
Very.
so you have to handle and manage this sargassum, and it's a problem.
How bad is it in terms of the damage that it's doing to the coastline? I mean, I took a drive, my daughter, myself, we've been looking at it over time, from Anotta Bay all the way through to Robbins Bay, from Port Maria, and all along the coastline. I was actually frightened, just thinking about what damage this could possibly do. But is this dangerous?
Well, one of the problems with sargassum is it picks up chemicals from the sea, and it picks up what we call toxic heavy metals. For example, arsenic is one, cadmium is another, lead, and some other minerals not as toxic as arsenic, cadmium, and lead, but still it does pick it up from the sea. And although people have found uses for it, for example, fertilizer, they can use it because as it picks up the compounds from the sea, it's rich to the plants. However, the problem is that the plants can then pick up some of these heavy metals, like the arsenic and cadmium and lead in particular. And if we use it to fertilize vegetables, then studies have shown that when you test the vegetables, you do get some of these heavy metal in the vegetables.
Really,
So again,
really.
this is something that one has to be very conscious of.
Because people are putting this in their gardens. I remember somebody carry a
Yeah.
whole heap to me to say, "No man, it's this good for the plants." But you're saying not really,
Well, for vegetables, for example, we're
not
going
for
to eat.
vegetables, right?
But if we use it for ornamental plants that we don't consume, yes, there is that benefit. Of course, it's going to cause your garden to get
Oh yes,
mm,
yes. Excuse me with it.
smell.
So you are you're here because this is not just a Jamaica thing, right? This is Caribbean wide, isn't it?
Yes, this is Caribbean wide, and also the Gulf states. So countries like Mexico, Costa Rica, those countries that Belize, they're going to get the same problem. Even Florida also has the problem, and also some of the northern countries in South America, Brazil, for example, they do have the problem.
Why are we seeing so much of it now? I don't remember seeing this. I grew up, by the seaside, literally. Well, not by, but we have a pass the sea almost every week. I don't remember seeing this at all. I know there's a book called White Sargassum Sea, and everybody was wondering what that was, but we've never seen it really. So what has changed?
Well, and this is the belief that global warming is responsible for this upsurge in the amount of sargassum we are seeing. Sargassum really comes from what we call the Sargassum Sea out in the Atlantic Ocean. And the belief is, and there are studies that have shown it, that the runoff, for example, from agriculture, fertilizers and pollution from processing plants. Some of these things are responsible. And of course, the global warming means that the temperature of the ocean is more conducive for the proliferation of the growth of the seaweed. So these combined things come together, and now we are seeing this explosion in the of the sargassum. And you're right, because I remember as a kid, you used to see a little bit of seaweed, but nothing compared to what we are seeing now.
No. All right. Puff, let me take a quick break, and when we come back, we talk about the work that you're doing specifically around sargassum.
Expungement of criminal records provides eligible Jamaicans with a second chance at life. Apply today. The time by the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs is
now 14 after 9 o'clock.
Come and experience the ultimate UTV off-road adventure in Jamaica at Bush Trails Excursion Tours, where your adrenaline levels will soar. We're open Tuesdays to Sundays, and also something special for the kids on the weekends. So bring the entire family. Call 876-893-9825 or book today via website at www.bushtrailsexcursion.com. Bush Trails Excursion. Let's get dirty.
Ever wanted the freedom to shop anywhere, anytime, online or in-store, but don't have a credit card? The missing link is coming soon. This Friday, Amber and DJ Acid will blaze up live halfway through Transport Center from 3 p.m. where the Link team is going to paint the town green. Enough surprises, giveaways, and a big reveal from Link. Remember, you can pay in a blink with Link. Download Link from your app store today and link us this Friday, halfway through Transport Center.
The biggest annual reggae party on sea will unfold April 1 to 6 as the Love and Harmony Cruise sets sail from Miami to Jamaica and back with one stop in the Bahamas.
Okay, folks, welcome aboard. We are now ready to set sail.
The exciting 6-day, 5-night cruise will see the likes of Barris Hammond.
Every time I think of saying goodbye,
Pinterest, Busy Signal, Maxi Priest, Romain Virgo, Agent Sasco, Tanya Stevens, Carlene Davis,
everybody needs a little help sometimes,
and Minister Marion Hall.
I said, I've been accused.
Taking center stage. iriefm personalities parading in their school uniforms, PJs or lingerie, flag colors, shorts and shades, all whites, and even formal wear with masquerades will traverse the decks and halls of the Norwegian Joy as we give you up-to-the-minute info on the action on the cruise, both on radio and on all social media platforms as they unfold. Coverage of the Love and Harmony Cruise 2026 comes to you all courtesy of Tiles Are Us Limited, Balance Valley St. Elizabeth, for tiles, tools, and every household fixture. Call 965-1896. Lico Ochi Seafood Restaurant. Get all your favorite seafood done to order. Call 852-6430.
Digicel, better connected.
Boscobel Hardware, Stewarttown St. Mary, for all your building needs. Where every day is a sale day. Call us at 876-810-6986.
Calvin's Pharmacy, better health, better prices every day. 8 Peck Street, Linstead. Call 876-440-2108.
Queen Kamarla, promoting single Respect Me on all platforms. Follow her on IG at Queen_Kamarla_the_baddest and YouTube at Queen Kamarla Official 1983.
If you want me to be your number one, you gotta respect me. Respect me.
Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited. Precision that powers Jamaican businesses.
Brown's Records promoting Heal This World Rhythm featuring Richie Spice, Lola Smiles, Turbulence, Chesedek, Luton Fire, and more on all streaming platforms. This 13 production promoting Ras Negos' new single Burkina Faso, distributed by DistroKid and available on Spotify, Tidal, VPAL Music and all other streaming platforms.
A Burkina Faso, Africa rich and it a grow. Burkina Faso, yo, that's how we a go.
Need information on everyday financial matters? Then check out The Financial Corner. This and every Monday at 6 p.m. during live at 5:45. We give relatable financial information, the latest financial news, as well as financial tips.
Brought to you by Massive Auto Parts and Car Sales, Pineapple Ocheria, Santana. For the best in auto parts and car sales, call Massive. We've got you covered. Real Deal Windows and Doors, Tower Isle, St. Mary. For the best deals on windows, doors, shower enclosures, and glass railings, call 876-285-8064 or 876-867-9349.
That's Financial Corner, this and every Monday at 6 p.m. on the nation's #1 IRIEFM.
Saturday, March 14th, the Roaring Lion presents Joe Mercer Marley's Eternal Birthday Celebration, taking place at the Bob Marley Museum, 56 Hope Road. Performing live, Stephen Marley, Old Soul Live, Unplugged. Also performing Damian Marley, Julian Marley, Johan Marley, Him Marley, Mystic Marley, and many more guest artists. Get your tickets now at caribtix.com. Pre-sold 5,000, 7,000 at the gate. Saturday, March 14th, Bob Marley Museum. Gates open 6 p.m., showtime 8 p.m. It's Joe Mercer Marley's Eternal Birthday Celebration.
All right, we're back with you inside of the Africa Forum. This is Running Africa, and my very special guest is Professor Melvin Pascall, and he's in Jamaica on some serious business. You would have noticed, I'm sure, just going across Jamaica, the coastline, the entire coastline, and you try to go to the beach, and it is a problem. Where the hotels are, it's not so bad because they do the cleaning up. But if you just go and drive off road and catch a little beach somewhere, no, it's kind of tough. And we're talking about Sargassum. All right, Professor, tell us about your work. What are you doing in terms of Sargassum? Because you also said self-sufficiency related to the work I'm doing with Sargassum. How does that work?
Yeah, and for example, when I talked about self-sufficiency, I'm specifically talking about how can we use what we have to meet our needs. Now, one of what I am doing and my focus is to use Sargassum to make plastic. Because and specifically for food packaging applications.
Yes.
Because we package our foods. We use packaging to transport our food. We go to the grocery store, for example. We have to use a bag to put our food in, the food we purchase in the bag so we can take it to wherever we want to go. How can we use it? Now, I know there are researchers who are using Sargassum to create biofuels. So again, you can see we can use the Sargassum to provide the energy that we need.
Yes.
And for most Caribbean islands in particular, they have to import the fuel where it comes from, you know. So the thing is, I'm saying let's focus on some of these things.
Yes.
And in the case of Sargassum, it is turning a disaster into something that benefits us.
This is opportunity out of crisis.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember back, I think it was during the pandemic, was 2020, I think, or 2019, giving a presentation to the Caribbean. And at the time, the volcano in St. Vincent was erupting. And you had all this ash that was being expelled and, you know, it was in the environment. The farmers were problem with it, you know, on the crops and so on. And my take on it was this. Why can't we use this to benefit us? For example, we have the universities in the Caribbean, and researchers can get together to do some analysis on the ash. And from what I had, you know, read about it, it has certain desirable compounds that we could use to make cement. So we can use this and open a whole industry.
Yes.
Provide employment. We could reduce importation of the basic things that we need by using our own natural resources. And that's the point I'm making. And here, in Jamaica to find a use for the sargassum. And so what I'm doing is to use it to make plastic, what we call bio-based plastic, plastic that wouldn't become a problem to the environment, as is the case with some of the petroleum-based plastics. But the bio-based plastics, they tend to degrade very easily. But at the same time, we have to develop the plastic so that it becomes useful for what we need it for. So that's really the focus of what I am doing.
What does that entail in terms of the work you're doing? Because you're based at the University of the West Indies. How integral is UWI to the work that you're doing, and what does it entail?
Well, my background is in material science, and I've studied quite extensively plastic in particular. So most of the research that I have been doing at Ohio State University is with plastics, both petroleum and with bio-based plastics. So coming here and working with the University of the West Indies, this is not my first assignment. As a matter of fact, I started working with the University of the West Indies back in about 2010, around there. And I've worked with them to help to implement a master's program that focuses on food processing. Every year I come and I teach the food packaging course. And I will do it again this year while I'm here. So this is a long-term relationship that I have with the University of the West Indies as it relates to food production and food processing and packaging in Jamaica.
In terms of the sargassum itself, are you across Jamaica, or you're focused in a particular area?
Currently, the sargassum that I have currently in the lab that we are working with, we got it from the Hillshire area, but pretty much this is the first set of testing we are doing. I want to believe that maybe down the road we would look to see if the sargassum that comes from a different part of the country might be slightly different in terms of the behavior of the seaweed and the material that we make from it. And one of the things that we are doing right now with the seaweed that we have, we've separated them into species, because sargassum is not just one species. The ones that come to Jamaica, we have about 3 or 4 main species, but I'm looking at 2 species. What I'm looking at is one species a better choice to make plastic as compared to another species? Would the yield be higher? Because I'm not just making a prototype of the plastic, which I have already, because since I've been here since October, we've already made a prototype. So we have the plastic. We know that it could be done. But what I am focusing on and what I would like to see is that it could become commercialized. Because then my take is, what's the point of doing research and the research winds up on the shelf? There must be this, okay, so let's look at the percentage yield. How much sargassum do we need to produce plastic? How can we improve that yield? Which is the best option? Which is the best species? These are the kinds of things that I hope to look at least even at this initial stage of the research I'm doing.
And in terms of what you found already, and especially how much do you need, do you have an idea? Are you able to say or guesstimate? I know it's serious scientific research, but what are you seeing?
Well, right now we are still in the early stages. So since I came, what I've done is we took sargassum, just go to the beach, collect it, and then use it. First of all, we wanted to see could we make the film? And we've done that. The next step that we are looking at is in the process of making the film, can we also remove the heavy metals? Because if we make the plastic and the plastic has the heavy metals in it, then that limits the application. Because since this is a bio-based plastic, one of the things that I'm looking at is, can we use it for edible packaging? And that's plastics that we can eat. Now, I know
no, I have to take a break and come back to that one. Let me do a quick break and come for.
G, you know say Mikey no come.
Hold on.
No, sir. That sound like consumption.
What that?
Tuberculosis, aka TB.
Now all time something like that. After nobody not get that again.
So you think TB still about?
If you have a cough for more than 2 weeks with fever, night sweats, and weight loss, go to your doctor or health center and get tested now. Let's be vigilant and stop the spread of TB infections. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
When the system confuses the people, knowledge becomes resistance.
Order. Now my court is in session. Will you please stand?
Join Muta Baruka inside the People's Court, 4 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. every Thursday as he reasons with the lawyer. We ask, we reason, we overstand. Call us with your questions for the lawyer at 876-974-5051, 876-618-0352, or WhatsApp 876-838-2405 to get free legal advice. This is not judgment. This is the People's Court. This Thursday, 4 p.m. right yaso on iriefm.
No, take them away.
Roll out. We're taking over.
Portmore, the iriefm Plaza and supermarket rollouts will be coming your way for the first time in 2026. The parking lot of June Supermarket Wholesale, 68 Newlands, Portmore, will take the spotlight on Saturday, March 21, as iriefm rolls out for a grand pre-Easter celebration. From noon to 6 p.m. Come vibe with the likes of DJ Lollipop.
Hey, DJ Lollipop, you are the number 10 for the radio.
DJ MC Teddy.
MC Teddy been there before.
And DJ Acid. As well as several local recording artists. As we take the festivities to you, there will be lots of fun and games, as well as prizes and giveaways from our supporting sponsors. All day, there will be something for everyone. It's iriefm's Plaza and Supermarket rollouts at June Supermarket Wholesale, Saturday, March 21. Make sure you turn out to party with the nation's #1. Brought to you by Honey Bun, taste the tradition, Jamaica's best Easter bun. Vitamalt, vitalize your body. New pack, more than just value. Jambisco Excelsior, Jamaica's favorite. Confectionery and snacks, all extreme. Bigger crunch, bolder taste, all extreme. Geddes Grant, cool kids, juice that fuels the fun. Reward Magna Rewards. Swipe, learn, redeem.
Panadol Rapid, 5 times faster than other paracetamol brands.
And June Supermarket Wholesale Limited, variety, service, value. 68 Newlands, Portmore. Telephone 876-998-1105.
Some me roll. Bears them up, iriefm.
All right, we're back with you inside of the Africa Forum. It's Running Africa, and Professor Melvin Pascall is in the house with us. We're talking about sargassum and the possible uses of what appears to be a toxic thing because it smelled bad and it looked like it damaging the coastline. And we are scratching our heads as to how in heaven's name do we deal with this? Well, here comes Professor Pascall. Plastic, biofuel, that's a question that's also on the table, even though this is not what you're working on right now, Professor Pascall. But plastic and even edible plastic from sargassum.
Yes, certainly, edible plastic. Well, with packaging, with food packaging, there is a psychology, a deep psychology associated with packaging and food packaging.
Yes.
And it works well when we are not conscious of it. And the packaging industry is well aware of this. When you buy a product, you don't buy the product because you want the package. You buy the product because you want the food.
True.
But in most cases, not all cases, but in most cases, the package costs more money than the food that you want.
That's true.
And when you're finished, after you consume the food, what do you do with the package?
Right.
You throw it away.
Yes.
You're throwing away something of more value than what you consume. But we are not conscious of it. We don't think that way.
Right.
Well, it's designed like that. And the package is designed to draw you to the food.
Yes.
The colors, the shape of the package, the size of the package. These things do have, an impact on our decision-making ability.
Yeah.
Because you go to the grocery store and you walk down the aisle, and you may see several products of the same type, but from different manufacturers, and the packaging that is used to package the product has a significant impact on drawing you to which brand you are going to buy.
Yes.
Many times we are not conscious of it. Yes, it does matter. Graphics, the color, these things do matter. So the issue of edible packaging, it sounds gross that, what, am I eating plastic?
Well, this is what I was going to come to, because if it is plastic, then how do you, at what point, where do you draw the line? Because plastic would be harmful to the body, isn't it? I mean, to ingest. So how can you say edible plastic? Isn't that in itself a misnomer?
Well, not all plastics are toxic. For example, let me show you a plastic that many people consume, and maybe you may have consumed it this morning. What about a capsule?
What?
A capsule.
Oh, a capsule.
With medication or with pharmaceuticals or with supplements.
Yes.
This morning I had cod liver oil capsules.
Right, and I had D3. I had D3.
That's a plastic.
I had my D3. Yes. And with magnesium.
One example.
Right.
But you see, this is what I'm saying. We don't think about these things this way. You see, look at a can, a food can. You know how much technology is involved in a food can? But we don't think about it. We simply just buy it, open the thing, and drink the stuff, and when we throw it out, and we go on our way. We don't want you to focus on the technology involved. That's why we charge you so much money for the package. So you buy a bottle of water or soda, for example, and you pay, how much? Here in Jamaica, you may pay about $150 for a soft drink. Well,
I'm ashamed I don't know.
well, okay, let's assume it's that price.
Yeah.
The actual drink itself, which is what you are interested in, may cost about $25. And you are spending $125 for the package, which is the bottle or the can, plus the label, plus the cap. All of these things are part of the package.
Yes.
And it costs money, so that manufacturers have to take these prices and factor these things into the cost of the product, which is what you pay as consumers.
Yes. Without giving away too much, what would edible plastic, how would that work in packaging? Because you talk about capsules. I mean, these are small things that you just swallow. You're not even chewing.
Yeah. Well, for example, let me show you an application of edible packaging that, again, you may not be conscious of. Take a Jamaica patty. On the inside, you have the filling, which is wet, moist. It has a high moisture content.
Yes.
And the crust is dry.
Right.
You don't want the moist filling to cause the crust to become soggy. Because then the patty is going to lose that crispy texture that it has, that you like and that you're accustomed with. Well, you can use an edible package to prevent excessive moisture from the filling getting to the crust. So it's edible, You don't have to put it on the label. You don't have to tell consumers that that is what you've done. But your patty is going to be of a higher quality to the guy down the street who is making and selling patty and not doing what you're doing. You see, that's just another example.
Yes.
And in many cases, these things do happen and we just don't know. And, you know, if you look at food regulations, let's say it's something that's packaged and it has to be sold, then the food regulations say that you have to put it on the label, the ingredients. Well, since the plastic is biodegradable and it's made, let's say, from starch, then you don't have to put that on the label specifically because it's like starch, which is again part of the ingredient of the product itself. So you can hide a lot of this information from the public legally, and you don't have to give away your trade secrets because it could be used as trade secrets.
And you said legally. What are the ethical considerations, if any?
Well, if it's food. So, for example, if I put sugar or I put certain spices in my food to enhance the flavor of my food, there is nothing illegal in it because spices are approved additives for food, food-safe additives.
Yeah.
You see, as long as it's used, you know, not indiscriminately. Because if we talk about food regulations, there is something called good manufacturing practices. And that means that even if you're using an ingredient in the food that is approved, it has to be used with certain discretions. So nothing is wrong with my using a known ingredient in the food, but I've simply changed the nature of the ingredient. I use it to make up a film, and I use it in the food. Because in making films for edible packaging, you can use, I have used milk to make films. I've used cassava, mushrooms. I've even used cactus, which is from the aloe vera variety. These are something. I've used citrus, orange, apples. So you can
you can do all of this without doing well, genetically engineered stuff.
Right, yes. Because the ingredients that we use to make plastics are what we can use carbohydrates. And take cassava, for example, because I have made films from cassava. The starch in cassava, you can use that to make films. And it's food. Corn, for example, is used quite widely. And of all the edible films, making films from corn has been the most successful in making a plastic called polylactic acid. It behaves very much like the petroleum-based plastics. And I have been to the grocery store here in Jamaica and seen polylactic acid films being used in food packaging. And that's come from corn, or it could be made from sugarcane.
Yes. So we have enough around us that grow naturally to do so much more than what we're doing. What we need is a bit of innovation.
Yes.
Why do you think that is so lacking?
Well, you know, we have to put money into it. Because if we want to do research with our natural products, and right now, for example, there is a student that I know at the University of the West Indies, and I'm on his committee, and he's using, I think you call it guinnep in Jamaica.
Yeah, chenet.
Again, you can, right, it's called chenet in Trinidad. Yeah. And he's using it to make edible films. There are a lot of crops that we can use here. And these techniques are widely known, some of these techniques. It's not to say that we have to come up with something that is really outside of the box, because a lot of these research for example, the research into making films from apples. Well, it's the same technique that I have used to make the film from oranges, from citrus peel. So if we have an industry here in Jamaica that's making orange juice from oranges that are produced here in Jamaica, instead of throwing away the peel, we can use the peel to make films, plastic films. Now, what we will have to do is we will have to develop the industry to produce the plastic. And we will want to make sure that we have a steady supply of the raw material. So again, we have to tie in the production of the raw material with the processing, and then we scale it up to produce products that could supply the market and also export and prevent the importation of foreign products, and we become more self-sufficient. So we have to look at it that way down the road. It's an investment.
Of course, we have so much waste, and you and I talked before, and I told you that one of the things I noticed in St. Elizabeth, for example, that they have a lot of black mangoes, and when it's mango season, you're driving over mango like asphalt, and in other places of Jamaica, it is apple. So in food season, our foods go to waste. You're saying there is so much more that you can do with the foods going to waste, but it needs investment.
Yes. It needs human investment, and it also needs capital investment. If we want to produce and become self-sufficient, there is no way we can get away from it. We can't depend on people from another country or another region coming in and developing our products. And, we have to put aside funds. We have to put aside energy. Our institutions must see this as an essential part of the development of Jamaica, the Caribbean, because we have steady climate year round. So we could produce food, we can produce products year round. We don't have to worry about winter when the growing season is dormant. No, we can do these things, and we can switch from one crop to the next if in fact one crop has a season, or our agriculture researchers could develop varieties that could produce a year round. There are all these things we could do, but it's a mindset, and it is that willingness to want to commit funds, to commit effort to doing these things. But it could be done.
And I think the mindset is critical that you mentioned there, because we seem to have bought into, the idea of importing, and the food importation business is a big business in Jamaica. I think that there's also a resistance from those who are taking in food into the country, that there's a resistance.
Well, the thing is, we can turn this same, as you mentioned, there is this, willingness to want to do import. We could turn that around to have the willingness to want to produce our own food, to want to produce our own products with the natural raw materials that we have in the country. How do you do that? I must admit that changing culture is difficult. It's like trying to turn a big ship around, but we can do it. I mean, other countries have done it. I mean, I've been to some Asian countries, and I've seen where they've used cassava to make plastic bowls so that when they sell takeaway food, instead of putting it in polystyrene containers, they put it in these containers that they made from cassava. And when they're finished, they take the trash and feed it to the goats or feed it to the cows. Because if it's made from natural, materials, natural food, then the animals can eat it. So you minimize having to purchase food for the animals. You minimize the impact of trash into the environment. And there is a win-win situation.
Yeah.
But you have to want to develop these things yourself. You have to see to it that, listen, this is an investment for us for the future, that we could become more self-sufficient and less dependent on outside influences. And sargassum is an opportunity to do it in the case of biofuels, because as your listeners were talking a while ago, and they were talking about the importation of fuel in Cuba, for example. Well, because Cuba also has the problem of sargassum, and if they can use it to produce biofuels, then they don't have to depend on the importation of fuel. So but we have to invest into these things.
And the question is, why did we drag our feet on this?
Well, I think that programs like this can serve as a catalyst to bring to people's, bring it to the forefront of their mind what we could do. And maybe I should take it a little further and say what we should do. And I'm sure that this is the hope. This is because sometimes we need to say certain things to wake up people. People may not be conscious of certain things because, let's face it, and manufacturers, in order to sell their product, they advertise their product. And the reason why we enjoy certain imported foods, because manufacturers are doing a good job of advertising the food to us. Well, let's hope that what we are doing here this morning is an advertisement to the public. It's an advertisement to our elected officials that we can do more to use our natural products to provide the basic necessities that we enjoy and that we need.
Prof, hold the line. Let me take a quick break.
Taxi! Yo, taxi man, give me a charter. How much a charter? I'm offering for go and Edgewater.
My, me no carry stranger. Public transport operators, the People's Station IRIEFM continues to put a spotlight on you with Red Plate Spotlight. Yes, you can win big, up to $50,000 5 days per week by keeping locked into the nation's #1 IRIEFM.
Nothing tell you, Irie.
All you have to do is send in your plate number via WhatsApp to 876-350-2838 and just tune in to the 107s to hear when your plate is announced. Remember, it's not if, it's when. You don't have to send your plate more than once. As one sent in, it will be announced some random day, giving you 20 minutes to claim your cash prize. No name or personal information required to enter, just your red plate number. That's Red Plate Spotlight, putting a spotlight on public transport operators like no other radio station can. Red Plate Spotlight is brought to you by Tiles R Us, Ballards Valley, St. Elizabeth. For tiles, tools, every household fixture. Call 965-1896. Tiles R Us. Franco Brakes and Clutch Manufacturing, Stewart Town, St. Mary. We make your old brakes and clutch new. Call 278-4844.
Unique Records promoting the new track Give Thanks by Iwad, the Universal singer, from his album Clear Blue Skies. Find it on all platforms.
In everything, we gotta give thanks. Despite of everything, it could be worse.
All right, back with you inside of the Africa Forum, Professor Melvin Pascall on the line, and we are talking about some really serious gains in food production and packaging and manufacturing and self-sufficiency. Well, not gains in self-sufficiency, but what we can do. Obviously, Prof, the good thing about all of this and the bottom line is that we have the resources. It's not that we don't have what we need, the products. We have the raw material, if you will.
Yeah.
So it's just for us to be serious enough about food security.
Yeah, and I should say this because I have seen concerted effort in some countries to really use local products. Over the past, I would say probably 7 years or so, 5 to 7 years, I've seen a significant increase in the use of some of the local products. I've seen cassava to make cassava chips. Traditionally, we used potato chips, and we didn't grow the potato that we see these chips being made of. Now
Right.
we are beginning to see cassava chips, breadfruit chips.
Yum, that's true.
You know,
But not, well, I think we're still doing planting here like in Jamaica, but I don't think we're using yam and potato and cassava in the way that we could.
well, I've been to Brazil, for example, and I have seen them use cassava in huge variety,
Yeah.
in different ways, making different products.
Mm.
One of the things that we can do, our universities, for example, University of the West Indies or some of the other universities in the Caribbean, can collaborate with some of the universities in Brazil, for example, where they can learn some of the techniques and, because that is what helps in the advancement of knowledge. When we have a collaborative attitude, we have to want that. We have to recognize that we don't know everything. No one person knows everything. But I can take my specialty, combine it with that of another person, and then we can put our heads together and we could develop products. We could come up with ideas. We could learn from one another. So I must recognize that, yes, there are efforts, and we have seen increases in the use of, for example, using dasheen to make cereals. I've seen that. Some of the local food producers here in Jamaica that export their product to U.S. market, they have significantly increased the quality of the product, the quality of the packaging. Some of these companies, I've worked with them to help them directly or indirectly by actually taking the students to some of these countries and have the students work with them to help to improve the product. And in the United States, I look at the product. I don't want to call companies' names because I'm not here to
they're not paying.
But yes, we have made a lot of strides over the last 10, 15 years.
That is good to hear. I'm so sorry that we're out of time, Prof. But you've put us on a path of thinking this morning, and we must think about what we're thinking. This is just critical thinking at the end of the day. But you've put us on a path of rethinking and reimagining what our futures can look like, even as we lament over the New World Order and Mark Carney's speech at the World Economic Forum and food security and water security and so on. You've given us some practical ideas as to where we can go. I want to continue our conversation. So this is the first in our series because there's just so much knowing that you've got. And I know that our audience would like to hear much more from you. So if you're willing to, and I know you are, we invite you back. We'll talk with you on that to come in and share with us more of your knowledge in this particular field of, and I'm saying food safety, security, packaging, you name it, and sargassum. So should we pick up sargassum now and save them for you?
Well, the best sargassum to use would be the ones that you harvest from the sea itself, and not when it gets onto the beach, because when it gets onto the beach, then it picks up the sand and the dirt, gets contaminated, and so that's the best one.
I'm glad somebody's doing something about it because goodness, wow, this is a problem. So thank you so much for your work, and thank you so much for choosing Jamaica.
You're very welcome. Very welcome.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor Melvin Pascall, and he'll be back with us. So don't you worry about it. He's at the University of the West Indies, working in this field for a very, very long time. He has assisted Jamaica in so many different ways regarding food packaging and just teaching, training. He's been coming back and forth to Jamaica for many years. And now, Bigay, you'd have seen it, sargassum on the beach. Me and you love beach, so you must see the sargassum. Yeah, and he's some plastic and so on.